Hello YouTube. Last week I made a video about Olympic weightlifting and I questioned the potential of someone looking like one without actually practicing the sport or being super competitive or taking drugs. And the answer I gave to you guys was that in my opinion it is fully possible to resemble an Ollie lifter without doing any Ollie lifting. And I checked and apparently some of you are interested in the program, so I crafted one for you guys. And as I said last time, I am going to apply the very principles I discussed in the previous video. So if you haven't seen it, check it out, it's in the description. And for today, I am going to go and explain to you the choices I made, the logic behind the programs, the exercises and the rep range, so that you understand where I'm coming from, why I believe that this is going to help you resemble or attain the physique of an Ollie lifter naturally, and also the modifications you can make if you're interested in running them. So, I made two. They're both available for free in the description. The first one is going to be pure bodybuilding. So I did what I told you I could do, which is I'm making a program that will make you train the correct muscles to look like an Olympic weightlifter without doing any Olympic weightlifting at all. There is not a single lift in there included that resemble what Ollie lifters do in terms of technique. So it's pure hypertrophy. And therefore, the technical rating is very, very low, meaning that you don't really need to know any type of clean and jerk or snatch technique, just plain old compounds and isolation, and that is going to be enough for that goal. And then the second program is for the people who want to look like an Ollie lifter and who also have a love for the sport in their heart, but don't necessarily want to compete. They just want to practice the lifts because they think they're fun, and that's perfectly fine. As I told you, the pure lifts by themselves are bad for hypertrophy, but the bastardized versions of them are not. So the very first program, the pure bodybuilding, is only going to concern itself with the dehybridization tactic, which is where I look at what Ollie lifters do and I just replicate the movement pattern so that you get the correct stimulus. And the second one is going to have both dehybridization and bastardization. So I'm taking the lifts that have too high of a technical rating and I'm lowering them by modifying them so that you can still do technically Ollie lifting without doing Ollie lifting. And it's the reason why you will not find a single clean and jerk or snatch in those programs in either of them, because these are both bad for hypertrophy, but you will find plenty of clean and jerk and snatch variations in the second template. So let's get started with the very first one. As I said, the very first one is the one that concerns itself only with bodybuilding. And the way you're going to run it goes as such. On Monday, we're going to start with overhead press because you want big shoulders, so you're going to have to develop your vertical press. You're going to have to get stronger, you're going to have to grow your tonnage. And this is why I gave you a very wide rep range with a ton of volume, 3 to 5 sets by 3 to 7 reps. Okay, so this gives you a lot of potential for volume and intensity manipulation. You have a lot of freedom here. It might be a little bit daunting, but don't worry. With the overhead press, you can't go wrong. High volume with that amount of intensity is perfectly safe, and you will find that you will make great progress from that. And as you can see, some days you can just do 3 sets, and you could do 3 sets of 3 reps if you just want high intensity. Or if for a certain day you want more volume, you can go for 5 sets and do maybe 4 or 7 reps. All of that is in the books, all of that works perfectly well. So don't be afraid of experimenting based on the program. And then you superset that with shrugs. So the way you're going to do it is very simple. You don't need 2 barbells or 2 racks. You do your overhead press. At the end of the set, you're going to just let the bar fall. So it's technically a reverse clean, if you will. And then you're just going to put the bar down and you're going to put the necessary weight on it and do your set of shrugs. That is the first technique you can apply. That is if you want to overload the shrugs. If you don't, you can just also shrug the weight that you overhead press. It's not going to be as interesting for hypertrophy because it's going to be very easy because your overhead press strength is much lower than your shrug strength, but it's doable. If you just want to go for the pump, that's your choice. Understand that the muscle fiber route is the best one for size. So I advise putting the bar down, putting weight on it, doing your shrugs, taking the weight down, cleaning the bar up, putting it back. So technically you are, yes, doing a clean, but anyone can do a clean with that amount of weight. It doesn't require any technique and it's not dangerous. So that is going to be your first superset for the day. As you can see, you're supersetting the overhead press because with the bench, it's the lift that I personally support the most in terms of supersets because it won't damage your performance. After the shrugs, you of course take 3 minutes of rest, then you do it again. These two are going to completely smoke your shoulders and traps. You're going to be pretty much done after that for these two muscle groups. And as you know, Olympic weightlifters have massive shoulders and traps, so it's for that purpose. It's the reason why I'm making you start the week with that. These are the most important groups, so you're going to prioritize them. After that, you're going to go onto your squats. And I'm making you do a 3 by 3 to 5. So it's 3 sets, it's fixated, 3 to 5 reps. This is low volume, relatively high intensity. And the goal of that is, of course, to develop your quads and posterior chain. The reason why I keep you low volume on this is because, as you will see with the program in itself, even though it's pure bodybuilding and there's no snatch or clean and jerk, I still wanted to maintain the spirit of Olympic weightlifting. And therefore, I have found that by doing a 4 days a week program, I could focus on intensity and have you trigger protein synthesis and work the muscle groups a ton, because you're not just completely burying yourself in tons of volume, so it's highly doable. And as you will be able to tell with the program, both of them are full body, because that's what makes the most sense if you want to train to resemble an Olympic weightlifter. An upper-lower just doesn't cut it. A push-pull leg is not enough volume for the lower body. So the full body was the perfect template for that goal. You superset your squats with lateral raises. The reason why also I have you do only 3 to 5 reps on the squat is because you're not going to tire in terms of cardiovascular system, because the overhead press and the shrugs might have taken some stamina out, and therefore I don't want you to pant and be completely out of breath after your squats. The lateral raises is again additional shoulder work. It's the last shoulder exercise for the day, or else it would be overkill. You're going to do 3 sets of 8 to 12. That is the second superset of the day. After that, we're entering the third set. With this program, and the way I program in general, and I advise you do too, there is a number of importance in terms of ranking, meaning that the higher up the exercises are in the day, the more important they are, for a simple reason. If you follow a numerical approach to training, meaning that you do set number 1, set number 2, set number 3 in that order, so top to bottom, by default, the exercises at the bottom are the ones that you're going to skip the most often. So to be smart about it and prevent yourself from skipping necessary volume, you must put the exercises that are the least important in terms of tonnage at the bottom. That also works in terms of weekly frequency. There's a difference between intra-workout and weekly frequency. And it's also the reason why, if you decide for a reason or another that 4 days is too much and you can only do 3, I got you covered, because the Saturday is the least important day. So if a day is being skipped, it's the Saturday, not another day, okay? Always the Saturday. It's the reason why it's at the end. And for this, it's the same logic. My exercises for Monday at the end are the least important. Doesn't mean that you're supposed to skip them, or else you won't get the same results. But if you have to skip because you have to go home, these are the ones you skip. So for the Monday, the last exercises are dumbbell rows or seal rows, 4 sets of 8 to 12, superset with dumbbell curls, 4 sets of 6 to 12, plus superset Russian twists, 4 sets AMRAPs. The logic here is that you're getting additional horizontal row volume, so for the upper back, because Olympic weightlifters have massive upper back, without taxing the posterior chain that is already taxed by the squats. Both of these variations do not engage much posterior chain at all. If you don't know how to do a proper dumbbell row without cheating, look at the tutorial I made in the playlist, or just look at the way Chinese lifters do it. Because many people have pointed that out. In terms of information, we have a ton of data and footage from Chinese weightlifters training for hypertrophy, and therefore a lot of these exercises are inspired from the way they train for size. And they do a ton of dumbbell rows, and when they do it, they don't post. Even though I as a bodybuilder post, but I do it in a fashion that doesn't include having the knee on the bench, which means you don't really need the bench in the first place. So if you want to see how they do it, it's easy, just Google it or you look at YouTube, they do it standing up. They post with nothing, they brace with their core, that's it. After that, the dumbbell curls, biceps, it's the only isolation bicep exercise in the training because only lifters don't have the biggest biceps. So if we're talking just straight dumbbell movement, that's the only one. And then the Russian twist is for the core. Only lifters have developed six packs, and therefore you need to train your core if you want to achieve that. So every single day we'll have you train abs directly every single day. And you might skip it, but I would advise if you end up skipping the last line of the exercises to take the Russian twists and to put them maybe after the shrugs. It will lengthen the first line of sets, but if you skip core all the time, you will never have a six-pack, and if you don't have a six-pack, you're not going to look like an Olympic weightlifter. So it's not going to work, or at least a Chinese Olympic weightlifter, because that's what we're talking about here. After that, for the Wednesday starts with the deadlifts. 1 set to 3 sets or 3 to 5 reps. So again, lots of freedom. You could do 1 set of 5. You could do 3 sets of 3. Up to you. It's up to you to manipulate the volume. And if you don't know how to do that, well, it's very simple. Just go for the simplest expression of the rep range, which is 1 set of 5 reps. Just do that. That's enough to progress on the deadlift until you reach a level where you have enough intelligence and knowledge, practical knowledge, to manipulate that rep range. You superset that with the single leg calf raises AMRAP, which means that after every single set of deadlift, including the warm-ups, you're going to do single leg calf raises until you can't do them anymore, okay? Because you need to work your calves. Even though they don't have the biggest calves, only lifters still have calves. For the second set, to follow that up, we have weighted push-ups, 3 sets of 4 to 8, superset with weighted chin-ups, 3 sets of 3 to 5, superset with hanging knee raises, 3 sets of AMRAPs. More work for the shoulders with the push-ups, for the triceps and the chest as well. Even though only lifters don't have the biggest chest, they still work it sometimes, and they usually like to do dips or push-ups, so it's what I used. If you want to do bench press, by all means do it. It's just that for me, including bench press in an only lifting program made no sense, so I didn't do it, but it's still an horizontal press. You are free to do so if you want. You follow that up with a vertical pull in the chin-up that is to be weighted. Keep in mind, if you are not able yet to do this weighted, 2 choices. Either you're a novice and you have no business running this program, in my opinion, you should jump on my novice program and then transition into that, or you're heavier as an individual, which is fine, just do them without any weight, okay? So that's for the 2 movements, and then the hanging knee raises, it's very simple, it's for the abs again. So right now we worked posterior chain traps, we work the lats to extend the upper back, we work the chest, the triceps, the shoulders. This is the reason why I do a full body template for this, is because since those muscles need to be heightened and some of them need high frequency, it's the best way. The last set of exercises for the day is going to be neck curls plus glute arm raises or hyperextensions plus backhand tricep extensions. What that is simple. You take a band or a cable. If the tension is this way, you're going to do this. That's a backhand tricep extension, okay? Regardless of the angle, it's not like this, it's not like this, it's like this, okay? It's like a backhand in tennis, okay? The goal is that the pressure at the top here is on the tricep. So do it as you will. I do it with elastic bands, you can do it with whatever. The reason why I have you do it like this is because I find that since you're going to do a ton of vertical press, that specific variation has the best injury prevention rate. So it's the reason why you do that. And for the rep ranges on these ones, it's all super high reps because it's muscles that are going to respond well to super high reps, like the neck, the hamstrings, and the triceps. All of that is going to be, of course, very pump intensive, which is also the goal, because a lot of these exercises, you won't get a pump because they are high intensity. So I'm trying to balance it out and give you the best of both worlds. If you end up skipping that last line at the end of the day, it's also not the end of the wood because you got a ton of highly valuable tonnage from the compounds. Keep in mind again that if you skip neck all the time, you'll have a pencil neck. Friday enters the scene afterwards. You have had 2 days to recover from the Wednesday and 2 days and 1 day from the Monday. So what you will be doing here is weighted dips. So additional volume for the shoulders, the chest, and the triceps. 3 sets of 3 to 5. So it's relatively low volume, okay? The goal is, again, to keep your strength up, to still give you shoulder stimulus, but not overdo it on the chest. If you want to do them more upright, it's your prerogative. If you want more tricep development, you can do it like this. After that, you do upright rows. Just as an aside, upright rows are not dangerous for the shoulders, okay? You have to find a way to do them properly so that they don't hurt. They're supposed to be a shoulder and traps exercise. You can do them with an easy bar. You can do them with dumbbells. You can do them with a barbell. You can do them with a kettlebell. You can do them with a band. Be imaginative. Find the way that works for you with no pain and then load, then progressively overload. The logic behind that is more trap work and more shoulder work as well. I have you do 3 sets of 10 to 15 because your shoulders will be tired from the dips, and I want you to do a high volume because if an exercise is high on the totem of dangerosity, which is a topic I discussed already on the channel, the more reps you do, the less of a chance you have to snap yourself up. And therefore, it's best to do this type of dangerous quote-unquote exercises in higher rep ranges. So that's the upper portion that is going to be pretty much taken care of on that Friday. Next set is going to be goblet squats, 4 sets of 8 to 12, so a ton of volume for the quads, because Ollie lifters have massive quads and glutes, and this variation I find is extremely great. If you're the type of person who love barbell squats, you can replace them with pose squats instead. Same rep range, you are going to spit blood because 4 sets of 8 to 12 with pose squats is torture, especially when you consider that you superset that with seated dumbbell overhead press. 4 sets of 6 to 12, more shoulder work, more shoulder press. Now, this is the area where it might become overkill to some people because your shoulders might be burnt out. Since you worked them on Monday, now you already did dips and upright rows, and now you do overhead press. Some people can't handle that. If your shoulders cannot handle that, you can do diamond push-ups instead. You can do handstand push-ups, even though technically that's still very demanding on the shoulders. Or you can skip it altogether if your shoulders just can't handle it yet. Keep in mind that the goal is to condition those shoulders so that they can, because at the end of the day, you do 2 vertical pulls, 2 vertical pushes a week on Monday and Friday, and it's essential for the hypertrophy of your shoulders. So if you want those big, massive round shoulders, you're going to have to be able to handle that amount of volume. After that is the bent over lateral raises. The logic in that is that if you could handle the overhead press, you can handle the lateral raises. And if you couldn't manage to do the overhead press, you still have the lateral raise afterwards to make up for the lack of volume and tonnage for the shoulder, especially the real delt. Since you are going to be pressing all the time, it's important that you also develop the real delt. It's the reason why I had you do lateral raises on Monday as well. If that area is weak, the entire shoulder is going to be weak. So don't neglect these. 4 sets of 10 to 15, same logic, high volume. And then the last line, the least important one is French press, 3 sets of 6 to 10 for the long head of the tricep, which is a muscle that Ollie lifters don't really have well developed at all. They tend to have a lot of this to the side, but not a lot of this underneath. Still important to work to balance the arm. You only do it once a week, so it won't kill you. And if you skip, you skip. Finger curls after that for the forearms, same logic. Forearm isolation for Ollie lifters is not the most important because they have good forearms, don't get me wrong, but they tend to have nicely shaped forearms because, one, of course, they train it, and 2, they're lean. So it makes the forearm pop more. It's not their best body part, and therefore I only have to do forearm isolation once a week with the finger curls. Then leg raises, 4 sets AMRAP. Again, if you skip the last line, the leg raises should be going after the upright rows. Do not skip the abs. And then the last day, as I said, the one that is expandable, you start with Romanian deadlifts, 4 sets of 8 to 12 for an additional hip hinge, more glute and hamstring isolation and focus, plus weighted pull-ups, more development for the lats. It cannot hurt. If you want to look like an Ollie lifter, it's not something that is going to damage your physique at all. Same logic, 4 sets of 3 to 5, low volume, high intensity. We follow that by farmer's carry, 3 sets of AMRAP. I wrote 3 sets of AMRAP, which means 3 sets of whatever you want. You want to walk 500 meters, do it. 300 meters, do it. 100 meters, do it. It's up to you. The only thing I want is it must be done in a fashion that stretches the traps, which is unavoidable with farmer's carry, because that's the main goal. The goal is to force you to brace, to work the hips, the legs as you work with the load, but most importantly, to train the traps. We want to explode your traps. Your traps are going to just escape from your shirt, okay? They're going to claim their independence. So you're going to do that, then you do reverse rows for an additional upper back finisher, 3 sets of AMRAPs. I'm not making you do them weighted for this template because you're supposed to do a weighted horizontal pull on Monday. Some people can't recover from that in 2 days, so I understand. Just do them AMRAP, get some blood in there, it's going to help with recovery. Same logic, you follow that with Face-pulls AMRAP for the health of the shoulder. Do not do them weighted on a cable, do them with a band or with baby weight. The goal is just to send blood into the real dirt. That's it. This is the reason why the Saturday is the least important day. It's a little plus. Like if you can get it done, it's going to help. You're going to grow faster from it and recover better from it. If you can't, so be it. There's not really a single important or unavoidable exercise that found its way in the Saturday. And we finish with another giant set, calf raises, neck curls, and pike sit-ups, abs, calves, neck, which I like to superset at the end of the workout. Those who make it to that are heroes and they will get better gains. But keep in mind that I want you to do the last superset of each day with no rest. Okay, 0 rest. You go boom, boom, boom. The only exception would be on the Monday because it's the only one, and maybe even the Friday because both of them have heavy movements. But for the Wednesday and the Saturday, I want you to go non-stop because especially the Wednesday, you could tell me, well, the hyperextensions are going to require me to rest. No, because the backhand tricep extension is going to take you so much time along with the neck curl because they are high rep that you will have recovered by then. The trap with giant sets is to be too lenient with the rest because you will find that a giant set that is supposed to save you time can become a trap and very time devouring if you just, take your time and fall around because they might take 10 minutes per cycle and that's not the goal of a giant set. You're supposed to just go non-stop. For the rest of the supersets, you can take 3 to 4 minutes between each of them. Okay, that's perfectly acceptable. So that is for the main template for the people who just care about the physique, they don't care about only lifting per se, they want to look like an only lifter, they don't want to practice the sport. That is the template for you. All right, this is perfectly easy to run. It's 3 to 4 times a week, as I said, and it's going to get you big. I guarantee you it's scheduled and programmed for that purpose. Now, let us move on to the second template, the one that includes bastardization practices. I'm not going to go over it again because it's the same exact template with modifications for the people who love these only lifting moves. So, for the Monday, the modification I made, instead of the overhead press, if you wish, you can do behind the head snatch press. Disclaimer, if you are not conditioned or if you just never did it, don't do it heavy, please. You will snap yourself up. It's very demanding in terms of mobility, but it's a variation that only lifters do for hypertrophy, and if you can handle it, it can be quite excellent. You can also do a normal behind the head press without the snatch grip. It's up to you. The way I distinguish between those two programs is simple. The first one is for people just interested in bodybuilding with minimal knowledge in terms of practice or technicality in only lifting. And so I made something easy to run that doesn't really require you to think of anything. This requires you to actually be smart, okay? So all of that rests on your shoulders. You need to know what you're doing to run this program, okay? So you make your choice. It's the same rep range as the first one. And then I replaced the shrugs by hang cleans or power cleans. Both of them are hang, by the way. So it's either hang cleans or hang power cleans. The reason why is because I want you to bend over in the hang position to bring additional stretch to the traps and also work the posterior chain more. This program, as I said, is more demanding in terms of intellect and experience and physicality. Okay, it's more difficult. Doesn't mean that it's going to give you better gains in terms of hypertrophy, but it's clearly much tougher in terms of conditioning and in terms of recovery. So just know that as you go into it. So you do your hang cleans or power cleans, and I modified the rep range so that it's actually doable for you. 3 to 5 sets of 6 to 10. This is going to be very tough on the cardiovascular system, but your traps and your shoulders are going to be smoked after that. Same logic, you decide. If you want to just stick with the weight you use for the overhead press, you can. If you want to add additional weight to do your hang cleans, you can. The time you take to change the plates doesn't really make a difference for the superset, so it's up to you, okay? And again, as I said, a hang clean or a power clean. The hang clean would add additional volume to the quads and the posterior chain even more. So it's up to you to decide, because we follow that with the squats and then Lu raises. So instead of the lateral raises, you're going to do the variation by Lu Xiao Zhen. 3 sets of 8 to 12, okay? Same logic, if you've never done the lift, you should start very light because it demands shoulder mobility in spades. So same logic, quad hypertrophy, shoulder hypertrophy. Then you do your dumbbell rows, the cell rows. I replace the curls by ring curls because they're more technical and they're more athletic. And you finish with the Russian twist. There are a lot of movements that require rings in there. If you don't like rings, it's fine. Just take the exercises from the previous template for bodybuilding purely and modify them, okay? You can do your own little market and little switches. Wednesday, you do your deadlifts. You can stick with the normal deadlifts, or you can do snatch grip deadlifts, depending on what you want. The snatch grip hits more upper back. You superset that with Toshiki raises. Toshiki raises is an invention, quote unquote, by yours truly, which in reality I just copied from Yamamoto Toshiki. And it's very simple. It's technically a snatch hang pull, and you finish that with a calf raise. So it's an explosive movement for the traps, the shoulders, and the calves. Same logic, you're going to superset each set of deadlift with a Toshiki raise, AMRAP, until you can't go anymore. It's very tough. Your traps are going to be on fire. Your calves are going to be on fire. But for hypertrophy, it's going to be insane. Of course, you take a break after the Toshiki raises, and you do again the set of deadlift afterwards, after your rest. The Toshiki raises are not going to take away from your ability to pull the deadlift, I can tell you that. Because it's not a pure hip hinge. It's a very shallow hip hinge with a ton of extension. But your traps will be crying and screaming. They'll be on fire. Follow that by the weighted push-ups. You can do them with rings if wanted. You can also do dips if you want. Again, it's an horizontal press. I prefer to have you vary between the push-ups and the dips for obvious injury prevention. Then you do your weighted chin-ups, no difference. You can do them with rings. And you do your hanging knee raises with a ring if you want. Okay? If you do it with ring, you have to actually go into a full squeeze chin-up before you do the knee raises. Don't do them with the arm extended. It defeats the purpose. You want a packed upper back. Follow that with the neck curls, the high bar hyperextension, which I modified from the previous program. In this case, you know how Olympic weightlifters do them with the bar sitting here. I personally hate that. It's very uncomfortable. If you like it that way, do it that way. If not, do your glute ham raises. And then I replaced what I believe was the tricep extension by kettlebell snatches, 4 sets of 8 to 12, because you will get plenty of tricep stimulus from other places of the training that I modified. The kettlebell snatches is going to help you also recruit more of the posterior chain, give you more explosive training per se, and in my opinion also fits better in the program because of the modifications I made. On Friday, you do your weighted dips, and you follow that with explosive upright rows. So these are not normal upright rows. You can do them 2 ways. Either you do an upright row where you explode at the top, and that includes having a certain degree of knee bend. I'm not going to go into detail for that. If you are tempted by only lifting and you have experience, you should already know what I'm talking about. You should go into knee flexion, use that to explode up, do your upright row, and then explode onto your calves, okay? This is the best explanation I can give you. You can even, if you want, go on to boxes and do a full squat, then explode up and do the upright row. Then up to you. All of that is more advanced. It's more techniques of volume and intensity manipulation. The reason why you might want to consider doing that with the deep squat is because the front squats that follow, that used to be goblet squats, are going to be done in a 4 sets by 4 to 6 reps rep range, which means much less volume for the quads because front squats are better done in lower rep ranges, in my opinion, and so it might be beneficial for your quads. Follow the front squats by the push press. Again, another early lifting movement, but that is just bastardized. That is great for the shoulders, the triceps, and it's also an explosive movement. 4 sets of 4 to 8 that you can also do in the same rack as the front squat. You just have to change the weight. Then bent over Lu raises, 4 sets of 10 to 15 for additional traps and real dart work. This is going to be a killer. I'm going to be honest with you, front squats, then push press, your abs and your cardiovascular system is going to be in shambles, which is why I give you the low raises afterwards to recuperate, but this is advanced. If you don't have a good work capacity, you will not be able to handle that. After that, the last set, behind the neck, behind the head or neck, it's the same thing, supinated tricep extension, so essentially you're like this, and you do this. Very demanding on shoulder mobility, okay? So if you can't do that with weight, with gravity pulling you downwards, I suggest tying a band behind you and doing it like this. That way gravity pulls you backwards, but directly in line with your head and not downwards. It's much less stressful on the tendons. It's a perfectly fine alternative. Then you superset that with force grip leg raises, 4 sets AMRAPs. A force grip is this. So the goal is to heighten the work on the forearm because it replaces a forearm movement. Same logic with that program, by the way. The last line of each day is the least important one. And then we go to the Saturday, the least important day as well. You start with snatch grip, Romanian deadlifts, 4 sets of 8 to 12. Then behind the head or weighted pull-ups. Disclaimer again, behind the head pull-ups demand high mobility on the shoulders. You will snap yourself up if you're not conditioned, so be careful. Then we do power cleans, 3 sets of 6 to 10. The movement is going to be well complemented by the fact that you do hang power cleans or hang cleans on Monday. So as you can see, I'm feeding the specificity of the Oli lifting movements as I program for you. And you're going to follow that with weighted reverse rows or seal rows. Now, the logic behind that. In this program, I told you that I didn't want you to weight that movement because it's going to be too much, you won't recuperate. But if you're running this program, I expect that your upper back in 48 hours will fully recover because it has the capacity to do so. And so you should be able to handle that. I still lowered the reps. You only do 3 sets of 6 to 10. So it should be doable. Then face-pulls AMRAP. I did not change the face-pulls. You don't do them weighted. You do them just for the sake of sending blood into the area because this program is going to stress the fuck out of your shoulders. The goal is to make them grow, but we don't want you to get injured. So keep in mind that slow and steady wins the race. Your shoulders will not turn into planets in a week, but with the focus I'm giving them and the ton of stimulus they're receiving with that program, they will grow. But you have to make sure you stay injury-free. So don't be an idiot, don't push through pain, monitor, and the face-pull is going to help with that, with the recovery aspect. And then you finish with Toshiki raises, which you already know, 4 sets of 15 to 20. You can lower the reps for Toshiki raises. You can do 6 to 10, even 4 to 8 if you like them really heavy. Then neck curls, pike sit-ups for the abs, and that wraps it up. So as I said, if you run this, you are, in my opinion, going to have a tougher time. I'm not sure if it's going to result in better hypertrophy. It might be the case for the shoulders and traps, so there might be a slight discrepancy between the two. This one might give you better overall result in terms of the globality of the physique. This one might help you get closer to an Oli lifting physique because you're also going to have the imbalances and weaknesses of an Oli lifter, but that requires you to get technical. There are much more technical points invested in that program than this one. But if it's your thing, man, and if you love the sport, please run it. Just keep in mind one thing. Don't think that you're going to get good at Oli lifting running that program. That is not the case. You're going to get big. You're not going to get very good at the clean and jerk and the snatch. You will be decent at them if you want to program them, but this is not the program to run for strength. That being said, I got you covered because if you do want to run strength and size at the same time, you take the Saturday, you crumble it, you do this, and then you add 2 additional days to these 3 days, one that is going to be focused on the snatch in terms of purely practicing the snatch, one focused on purely practicing the clean and jerk. If you're smart about it and you know what you're doing, you could even still train only 3 times a week, but have 2 of these days that have a morning session and a night session. The morning session will be the strength session. The night session will be the hypertrophy session. That is advanced programming. If you don't know what you're doing, and if what I'm saying seems foreign, don't even attempt it. But for the people who are pure Oli lifters and who want to get better at that, and at the same time run hypertrophy, this is something that could be doable. So it's going to be up to your own preferences and particularities. I trust that you know what you're doing. You're not going to get hurt. And so I'm going to leave you with that. As I said, the two programs are available for you in the description. I hope that you're going to enjoy yourself running them as much as I enjoyed making them for you guys. I try to make them as fun as possible. They're not redundant. You don't go to the gym 6 times a week. They're not too long with the supersets. They're challenging, but if you do them and you put yourself through it and you actually put in the work, you will see great results from that and eventually reach your goal of looking like an Olympic weightlifter. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.